Hey everyone, it's Mike Baltos and welcome to the Orderflows and Market Analysis for Monday, September 18, 2017. Now, markets are continuing their gains from last week's, and the big thing this week is the FOMC meeting. So, trading, even though we set new highs today in the equities, trading was mostly muted in the sense that, we didn't have a big range. It was actually a very tight range in the S&Ps. So with that said, let's get started here. But first, a brief disclaimer. This presentation is for educational and informational purposes only, should not be considered a solicitation to buy or sell or make any type of investment decision. Futures trading contains substantial risk and is not for every investor. An investor could potentially lose all or more than the initial investment. Risk capital is money that could be lost without jeopardizing one's financial security or lifestyle. Only risk capital should be used for trading, and only those with sufficient risk capital should consider trading. Past performance is not necessarily indicative of future results. Now, the tools I use in this presentation, as always, are the Orderflows Trader, which is the volume footprint chart, the Delta Scalper, and the price rejector. Now, if you haven't signed up, I've got a webinar tomorrow on the 19th of September with Investor Inspiration. The sign-up link is below in the description. You should sign up for it. And it's okay if you can't attend it live. There's if you sign up, at least you'll be on the list for the webinar replay when it's ready. So let's take a look here at the markets. There were some nice trading opportunities. First, we'll start in the E-minis on the 4-range chart. Okay, so this is the 4-range chart, and you can see coming into the morning, this is 8 o'clock. We were sitting on, and we just made a new low at 2,500. Our high was 2504.5. So you're coming into the cash open with a 4.5 point range, which, on Monday, on a week that you have a FOMC meeting, it's not surprising to have kind of a tight range. I mean, there was nothing major over the weekend, news-wise, event-wise, that's going to be pushing the market. And it's just sort of wait and see what the market's going to give you as far as trading opportunities. At 8 o'clock you had the divergence. No ratio, nothing, nothing to get too excited about other than just the divergence. A little bit later, you've got after the cash open, 8:32, a couple minutes after the cash open, you've got a divergence. And then the next bar, you've got the ratio. Again, this is something I talk about literally in every video that I do. And again, it's not like I'm pulling out esoteric markets out of thin air. These are the same markets that I talk about daily. E-minis, crude oil, bonds, 5 years, euro currency, soybeans. And then what happens is you start rallying. You rally right up from your lows. That's where you have your divergence all the way up to the highs and actually make new highs. Now on this move up, there's really no reason to be selling. And what do you see? You see all aggressive buying. In each bar has got imbalances in there, 1200, 1200. This one's got, the imbalance of 827, 420, 300, 800, 1500, 3000. Just past the high, you got another buying imbalance of 3900, which is encouraging. But you don't really make any more new highs. You get up to this area, look at this drop off in aggressive buying in the delta. You're coming up here, strong deltas, 1400, 2000, 4000. Then you get up here on the high, 73, that's nothing. 88, that's nothing. And instead, you're seeing selling start to come in here. You got the delta scalper giving you a sell signal right here. You got a strong negative delta. Next bar, strong negative delta. Honestly, when I was looking at this area up in here, I'm thinking, hey, we're going to sell off. We're going to, go down and make new lows. And then what happens? Again, next bar, negative delta. So you got minus 1100, minus 1900, minus 1100. It's not looking good for this market. And what happens? Nothing. It just proceeds. This is 9 o'clock here, 9:24, this bar. What happens is you just trade sideways all the way, for the next 3 hours. Basically, you do sell off, just before noon. You come down to the opening price of 02.25. But again, you're looking at this, and at this point I'm thinking the market's really going to fall over, and it doesn't. It just goes sideways. It's unfortunate. I mean, that's what happens. Sometimes the market just goes sideways on you. There's like I said, there's nothing really to push this market one way or the other. You're just going to end up with a normal trading day as far as the profile comes in. This is how it looked. Point of control is right here in the middle, at 02, which is just right around unchanged. So anyway, eventually, later in the day, you start selling off. Okay, any signs here? Yeah, not really. I mean, you got bullish ratio, then you got the bearish ratio, point of control up near the top. Then again, all selling imbalances. But again, earlier you had a lot of selling imbalances that, possibly we could have sold off and we didn't. We just sort of hung around unchanged. We do make the probe down lower, come down here, make a new low. Again, nice selling. Honestly, it's, 500, 1200, 2500, 3,500, 5,000, 2,300. You hit this low, you got the divergence, no ratio. Next bar, you do have the ratio. Again, you just go sideways on you, and it does probe down into new lows before rallying up and closing right around unchanged. And then in the evening session, this is where we are. But again, this, you could have taken this. Unfortunately, it didn't go anywhere. But the real, I'll say the real trade. I mean, you had this trade here, which was a nice trade, from getting long from around the 01.5 area all the way up to the new highs. You do have this sell here with the Delta Scalper giving you a nice sell around the 04.25, 4.5 area, which it just, didn't really put in much of a move. It just sort of went sideways on you. That, most likely you would have scratched. I don't think you would have held it here, getting short at 9:15. To say you'd hold it all the way down into these new lows at 1 o'clock is a bit of a stretch. But if you did, you got rewarded. This trade here, this ratio and divergence failed. No reason to be buying up off this low. So again, and compare it to the 10 range S&P chart, it just gives you an idea of how quiet it was. Nothing major. You do have the divergence on this high here in the S&Ps on the 10 range, but again, it didn't do much of anything. I mean, you got lower point of controls migrating lower, which is nice. But other than that, no reason to be buying off here. It's just a tight range. If you could get, at least on the 4 range, it gave you that move up from the low to the high. But again, you're talking, a move from, the 01 up to 05, 06. So, it's a 5-point range, a 5-point move. But on a day where you're, at that time when your range is 00 to 06, that's the move that you want, right? I mean, it's literally from your low up to the high on a day where there's no range, basically, from 99.5 up to 06, up to 05.5, up somewhere up in here where you got, the Delta Scalper giving you a sell. So you had one really strong buy, one that didn't work out down here with the ratio and divergence. But what can you do? Not all trades are going to be out 100% winners. But again, this is what you want. You want the move from the low up to the high. All right, so this is crude oil. This is the 8 range chart. It's November crude, and I want to talk about this because this was interesting because it's almost like two setups that are kind of similar in a sense. And what I'm going to talk about is this high here, the swing high. Now, bear in mind it's a double top here, right? Earlier you had just hit 50.27 right here. Now you're hitting 50.27 a second time. And I'll get rid of this crosshairs for a second. Now, here, this time you have the Delta Scalper kicking in. The first time that you hit it, you're sort of running up. You got some nice deltas, 400, 500, 400. You get up here, negative delta of 400, minus 200 here, minus 190. You don't have the Delta Scalper kicking off. This time you do. You have the Delta Scalper kicking off. Delta looks a little bit different on the way up. You hit this area with some small deltas, 11, 18, 76. So there's some trading going on in there. It's equally distributed. Then you get some buying coming in, plus delta of 358, then minus 140. So it's weakening. Then you get up here, strong negative delta 500. Here you got delta of minus 267. Then you run down here, negative delta of 230. But the bar starts rallying, right? It's a green bar. You got the negative delta. And you got the price action of the bar, turning up, right? So that tells you there's potentially some supportive buying in here. So while this is bearish, these two bars, you're looking at this bar and it's a bit bullish. And then your positive delta in the next bar, positive delta, strong positive delta, 430. But the bar turns down. So, it's mixed. There's some offers up here, obviously, some decent volume, 287, 256, 200. So, honestly, this area, I remember looking at it, thinking we could get a sell-off. Maybe this market could sell off. We do run into this bar, which is a bit bullish, just looking at these volumes, some supportive volumes. It's an area that we had just traded in as well, and I did see, if you just look back, you could see there was some support down in here in some of these bars, some nice buying. So we did pop up. I like the fact that we made the new high. You know, it would have stopped you out if you're short on the Delta Scalper though. And then you start popping up, making some new highs here. So, you know, this Delta Scalper, it stopped you out. You know, again, you know, this high, it's a double top. I don't like the fact that you traded more volume the second time. You know, it's an area that you're going sideways. But I was really looking for a bit of a sell-off here, potentially. You know, one thing that would have, I think, made it, you know, convinced me more is if you had less volume, if you had some sign of price rejection. But still, you know, I thought it was worth a shot. I thought it was worth a shot. And, you know, the market came right back and just rallied in my face. And we did, you know, come up here. Now you got another high, a new high here. And look at the delta on this run up. 630, 327, 23 on the high. So you got a negative, small positive delta. And then you got the Delta Scalper coming in here. Okay, so it's you know, turning bearish, right? So you just had the Delta Scalper here that failed. Here you got a Delta Scalper that failed. This swing high, you know, the delta it's getting weaker, right? It's not a negative delta right on this swing high, but it's, you know, it's kind of a neutral one. It's 23. It could very easily, you know, if there's just, you know, another 25 contracts here on the bid, you know, could have got sold into and you end up with a negative delta. But, you know, even at 23, it's still weak. You know, it's still weak. It's not, you know, with delta, right? Don't think just because it's positive and negative, it means something. You know, just don't look at it and say, oh, you got positive delta, that's bullish. Well, yeah, it's positive delta, but you also have to understand how it's forming, right? And you know, you got to understand that, again, if there was just an extra 25 lots on that bid somewhere, anywhere in there on the bid side, you know, it would have been a negative delta. You know, I sort of have a range, you know, of an area, you know, between, you know, anywhere between 50 to 0 or 25 to 0. That it's kind of neutral, right? I'm willing to give it a little bit of leeway because, you know, sometimes traders are a little bit late putting in their bids. You can see here, there's strong bids, 274, 642. You know, if a trader was just a little bit quicker and threw a 50 lot here, you'd have a negative delta. You know, if someone added in, you know, layered in an extra 50 contracts here that got sold, then you'd have a minus delta. But anyway, it's still positive. But again, it's in that area. I have an area where I consider it, you know, to be neutral. It could go either way really easily in one trade. You know, because sometimes, you know, the market just moves fast, and you know, people aren't able to get their orders in quick fashion. But anyway, so even though it's positive 23, it's still on the small side. So, you know, again, I'm willing to overlook that and, you know, take it as delta is weakening. Even though it's a positive delta, delta is weakening. It's getting lesser. It's, you know, went from 630 to 327, so it lost 300, and then 23. So it, you know, another difference of 300 there, and then negative 200. So you know, it's a swing from minus 300 delta here, minus 300, and then even from positive 23 to minus 280. That's also 300. So I know selling is taking over. In this bar, you got minus 800. So it's actually about you know, almost 600, you know, it's about 550 contracts. So less aggressive buying by 300, more aggressive selling by 300, by 300, you know, over 300 here. So, you know, it's looking encouraging. You know, you're starting to see less aggressive buying and more aggressive selling come in. Now, what's the difference between this this previous bar here? Yeah, the aggressive buying got less, you know, went from 358 to 140, and then it just completely flipped here and went to minus 509, and then it's negative 267. You know, even here is minus. But you know, the one telling thing in here is the price action that you're seeing in the bar. It's starting to rally instead of selling off. That's a sign that it's probably not going to work out. You got the negative delta, but price action is telling you something completely different. In the end, this trade didn't work out. So let's see how this one did. You know, again, it's kind of similar. You got a swing high, you got the Delta Scalper coming in. You know, this delta looks a little bit more cleaner than this one, but again, you know, this one is, to me, is perfectly fine for a sell. You know, this one's a little bit more methodical, gradual, minus 300, minus 300, minus 300, minus 300, minus 300. And then, you know, starts selling off and just sort of goes sideways in here, and then boom, you know, again, you're trading, you know, in this area here at 50, 30. And then the sell-off, look at this. Yeah, you got positive delta, green bar. Okay, it's not the end of the world. I mean, that by itself, just because you got a positive delta in a bar on a downtrend doesn't mean you got to cover your short, get out of the position, or get long. No, not at all. You're still getting. Sorry, excuse me. I drink of water. You're still getting, negative deltas immediately afterwards. Point of control's up near the high. So even though these markets are trying to rally, it's met with selling up here. Look at these volumes: 182, 46, 300, 370, 255. So there's strong offers up here. And then now we start selling off, all negative deltas, from 50, 30 all the way down to new lows. Again, no reason to be covering it, no reason to be buying down here. You get down here, you got divergence. Okay, maybe you could take something off. But again, there's no reason to be getting along or anything like that. You get down here and still got no ratio, still got negative delta. You're starting to see some signs of life that maybe these lows can hold. You're seeing the U-turn here coming in, 1, 2, 3. Finally you get it. You get the delta scalper as well coming in here. But again, these are sketchy. You got the negative delta, then positive delta, about red bars. It's sort of alternating in here, but again, it's nothing really solid that you can grasp. Then in here, off the low, strong positive delta scalper. You've got, again, you had 1, 2, 3 lows that fail, 2 lows that just failed on you. You got the U-turn. Now you got the U-turn with the delta scalper. Then in here again, maybe you're not convinced, even with this delta scalper. I probably wouldn't be, because I was like, I just got a failed trade. You got the same thing here. Then you got the delta scalper. Okay, it's a little bit encouraging. And then what do you got here? A stack buying imbalance. 158, 128, 129. Next bar, it comes back into that area. It's okay. It did hold. I'd love to see a bullish ratio, but again, 26 is decent. So now I'm thinking, okay, yeah, maybe this low can hold. It's just a matter of how much of a move can we get. And it starts going up, comes in a little bit sideways, and then the buying starts coming back in, the aggressive buying. You got some small deltas, 96, 133, 26, but then here, boom, positive 1,035, imbalance, and then boom, you just, you really rally up. So again, if I wouldn't blame you at all for, being hesitant on buying this low, because you just had, a couple lows that failed here. 1, 2 here, then you're looking at the same thing here. Now you got the delta scalper. Okay, it's building up your confidence in this trading opportunity. Boom. You got a stacked imbalance, which again is very bullish, stacked imbalance off the low. So, at this point you should feel a little bit confident. But again, still, you just had to move from 50.30 all the way down to 49.70, 49.68 on the low. Now you're getting a buy signal up here, 49.90, that area. Yeah, you can. I know people say, well, you know what? I don't want to be chasing this market, but there's no shame in being a little hesitant after just these 3 signals failed, 2 signals failed. But now the case is being made that, hey, you know what? This low can hold for now. And what happens is, you're getting the confirmation over the next 3 bars. And again, even if you're getting in at 90, it's okay. I mean, yeah, ideally you'd love to be getting in here at 70, but it's not that clear yet. But anyway, getting in at 90 is better than not getting in on a move all the way back up into, back up to 50.30. So that's another, another 40. Even we trade all the way up to 40. So that's 50. A good 50 ticks, but realistically, if you're getting out up here in this area where you start going sideways, that's still 20 ticks, right? 30 ticks. Eventually, we just went sideways for a spell. I sound like someone from the 1800s. And then you just sort of closed in the evening session, not doing much right now. Okay, so lastly, this is the soybeans. Lately I've been getting a lot of questions emailed to me about soybeans, and I'm gonna do a video later on some recent questions that I've been getting on order flow. And one of the questions I've got actually from a couple people, so it's about soybeans. People are, since the more I talk about it, there's a little bit more interest. And I'm going to do something about soybeans. I'm going to sound like a salesman for the board of trade, but again, soybeans is a nice contract. Grains I think follow order flow beautifully, partly because one, it's really a market. Those markets are driven by supply and demand. You don't get as much. You do have hedge funds obviously participating in the grains, but not to the extent that you got them in these other markets. And the retail participation is a bit lesser. It's not as much as it is in the in the financials like crude oil or E-minis. But that's not to say that there's no it's all relative, right? I mean, volume is less in these grains, but the participation is a little bit less. So there are day traders in the grains, but not so much as you don't get the big individual day traders that you would in say the crude or E-minis. But it's a nice contract because it follows order flow beautifully sometimes. I mean, sometimes not so nice, but when it does, it's just beautiful, much more beautiful than I think some of these financial contracts. So 8:30 is the reopen from the night session, and just watch what happens. Again, same things I talk about. Again, you got the swing high, point of control right up here at the high of the bar. You got the imbalance on the high. You come back up, you test it again, you got one lot, you do get a little bit of a sell-off, and not the greatest sell-off, but again, from 70.5 down to 69.5, that's a full point. Then it rallies back up here, coming back up into these highs. You got the imbalance here, you got another imbalance here, you got the delta surge coming in here as well. You do take out the highs, make a new high up here, come off a little bit. No reason to be selling this high here or this high right here. Again, you test the high again, but no reason to be selling it yet. I mean, just because you hit a high, and you want to find a reason to sell. If there's no reason to sell, I mean, what can you do? There's no reason to sell. Then you come back, it sells off here a little bit, just sort of going sideways, price rejector here. Then you're making this move back up towards the high. Then you got the delta scalper coming in here. You got 3-point controls all lined up, unfortunately, right after the trade. And then the market tanks. So it's moving from 973 and a half, and it just sells off quite nicely down to this area down here. We got point of control again. 115 is around 1 o'clock. If you're in any positions in the beans, should be looking to get out. It closes at what's that, 115. So again, from 973.5 down to 68.5. Again, that's a 5-cent move. That's equivalent to 5 points in the S&Ps. And then it just sort of goes sideways here. We're a little bit higher in the evening session, but not much going on right now in the evening session. All right, the obligatory nice delta scalper charts. This is the euro currency 5-minute chart. Yeah, nice buy here, nice sell here, and then later in the day a nice buy here. Even in the evening session, it's much higher. Right now, you just had the sell that didn't work out. It just popped up against you. But again, yesterday you had some really nice buys and sells here in the euro currency on the 5-minute chart. But anyway, let's just go back to euro currency on the 8 range chart. See how it looks. You got a nice little buy here. The sell doesn't work out. This sell does work out. This buy doesn't work out. This sell works out. So you got 1, 2, 3 winners, 2 losers. So again, if you're just, risking 1 bar, you lose 1 here, you lose 1 here, but, this one you're getting 1, 2, 3. Here you're getting, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Sorry about that. This cough. The air is so dry here. Sorry, my throat is dry. But again, you're losing, 10 ticks here, 10 ticks here, but you're getting, what is that? 30 ticks here, 30 ticks there. Obviously, this one, a nice move there. Even here, a nice move into the close. So again, it's all about risk reward. You're going to have some losers no matter what. Nothing is 100% in trading, but you got to manage it. Manage the trades, and get what you can get out of the winners and cut your losers short. Anyway, thanks for watching this video. Again, I've got a webinar tomorrow on the 19th with Investor Inspiration. The link will be in the description. To learn more about order flows, go to orderflows.com. To learn more about the Delta Scalper, go to deltascalper.com. And thanks. I hope to see you guys on the presentation tomorrow. So have a great day and bye-bye.